All right, so today we're going to be, our lesson is equations from graphs. So step 1, we're going to make a table of the graphed points. Step 2, we're going to check the line to see if it's additive or multiplicative. Remember, if it's multiplicative, it hits the origin. If it's additive, it does not hit the origin, which means it does not start at 0. And then we're going to write a rule given a table. Remember, it's really important when you're writing your rule that y goes to the left of your equal sign and x goes to the right of your equal sign. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get into this. It says we're going to graph. Be sure when you're looking at the graph that you are graphing the dots. Don't just start where the line is at. Make sure that you're looking at the dots when you put it in your x and your y. Okay, so let's look at this first dot here. I'm going to go to my first dot, and I'm going to see that on my first ordered pair, x is 2 when y is 4. So in my first part of my table here, I'm going to put in 2 for my x and 4 for my y. Then I'm going to locate the next dot on the line. And I'm going to find that my x is 5 and my y is 7. So in the next one, I'm going to put 5 and 7. Now I'm going to locate the last dot that I see on my graph. And I see here, I'm going to go to my x values, and my x is 6. And my y is 8. So we have 6 for the x and y for the 8. Now that we've entered the ordered pairs in order of the dots on the line, we are now going to figure out the equation. Remember, when we write that equation, we want y first because y is our total. And then equals. Okay, so what is it that we're doing to the x to get the y? Remember, that's always the question at hand. So we can ask, how do we get from 2 to 4, 5 to 7, and 6 to 8? Now, seeing here that we're not starting at the origin, that tells me that we are adding. So I know that to get from 2 to 4, I add 2. So I add 2. 2 plus 2 gives me 4. Let's see if it works all the way down. 5 plus 2 is 7, and 6 plus 2 is 8. So my rule would be to take my x and to add 2. So now it says you will enter the equation from this graph on the next slide. So now what you're going to do is you're going to go to question 2, and you're going to enter that in. Remember, you're going to always put y on this side. And then we said our equation should be x plus 2. So you're going to go ahead and fill that in there. All right, let's do that again. So here we can tell that this is a multiplicative graph because our graph is starting at the origin. But let's go ahead and let's place our graph points in order. So I'm going to go to my first dot again. I see that x is 2 and y is 6. So I'm going to put in 2, 6. Then I see here, I'm going to go to the next dot. Remember, we're going to put them in order. When x is 3, y is 9. So we're going to put in 3, 9. And then we're going to go to the last dot we see here. And when x is 4, y is 12. So I'm going to put in 4 and 12. Now, it says we're going to enter in the equation on the next side, but I'm going to go ahead and write it over here. Remember, it's supposed to be y equals. That is what we are starting with, y equals. Now we're going to ask, what is it that we're doing to our x to get our y? Because the origin, or the graph is starting at the origin, we know we're multiplying. So 2 times what gives me 6? Oh, okay, 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 3 is 12. So we want to take x and multiply it by 3 to get y. Remember, when there's nothing between the number and the variable, that means we are multiplying. So 3 times x is going to give me my y. So then I'm going to go to number 4, and I'm going to plug that in. I'm going to make sure I have my y to the left of the equal sign, and then I'm going to put my 3x to the right. Okay? All right, let's look at this again. Here, because I'm not starting at the origin, I know that this is going to be an additive graph. This is going to be an additive relationship. But let's go ahead and let's do that again. We're going to follow the dots in order. So I'm going to go to my dot, and the first dot is 3. My x is 3, and y is 4. So I'm going to put in 3, 4. Then I see the next one, x is 6, y is 7, and then the last one, x is 8, and y is 9. And I'm going to go ahead and put them in the order. So our middle dot was 6, 7, and our last dot or coordinate was 8, 9. Okay, now it says you will enter the equation from the graph on the next slide. Remember, you're always going to start with your y equals. What is it that we're doing to x to get to y? Now, we know it's going to be an additive graph because we did not start at this origin. So how do I get from 3 to 4? Okay, I add 1. 3 plus 1 is 4. 6 plus 1 is 7. 8 plus 1 is 9. So I would take x plus 1 to find my output, my y value. So I'm going to go to number 6 now, and I'm going to put y equals, and then we would have x plus 1 in the next box. Okay? All right, so hopefully you're starting to get the hang of it by now. Let's go ahead and let's do this again. We're going to follow our dots in order and find our x and y values. So when x is 1, y is 4. So in the first, I'm going to put my 1 and 4. Then I'm going to go to my next dot. When x is 2, y is 8. So I'm going to put in 2, 8. Then I'm going to go to my last dot. When x is 4, y is 16. So I'm going to put in 4 and 16. Okay, now I know I'm going to have a multiplicative rule because this graph is hitting the origin. Okay, so when I have to write my equation, I'm going to start with y equals, and I need to figure out what am I multiplying by. Okay, how do I get from 1 to 4? Okay, we multiply by 4. Let's check it all the way down. 2 times 4 is 8, and 4 times 4 is 16. So if I'm multiplying x by 4, remember we would write 4x to show multiplication. Remember, there's nothing between the number and the variable to show that you are multiplying. So then I'd come over to number 8, and I would put in y equals, and then put 4 times x behind it. All right, let's look at this again. Again, we're going to follow the dots in order. So here we have our x, which is 2, and our y, which is 20. So the first thing we're going to fill in is 2 and 20. Then we're going to go to the next dot that we see, and x is 5, and y is 50. So we're going to put 5 and 50. Then we're going to go to the last dot we see. When x is 7, y is 70. So we're going to put in 7 and 70. All right, now we're going to go ahead and we are going to write an equation. Now, because this graph is starting at the origin, we know that we are multiplying. Multiplicative graphs hit that origin. So it says y equals, what are we multiplying by? 2 times 10 gives me 20. 5 times 10 gives me 50. And 7 times 10 gives me 70. So we're taking x and multiplying it by 10 to get our equation. So I'm going to go to the next one and put my y equals 10x. All right, last one we're going to do. And we can clearly see this is additive because it is not hitting that origin. Okay, so here when x is 1, y is 5. So we're going to put 1, 5 in the table. Okay, when x, follow the next dot, when x is 3, y is 7. So we have 3 and 7. Okay, and then our last dot here, when x is 4, y is 8. So we have 4 and 8. All right, now we're going to make our equation. Remember, when we're making our equation, we're starting with y equals. And because this graph is not hitting origin, we know we are adding. So we need to ask ourselves, what are we adding 1 to get to 5? So 1 plus 4 is 5. 3 plus 4 is 7. And 4 plus 4 is 8. So we are taking x and adding 4 to get y. So now we're going to go to the last question here, and we're going to put in y equals x plus 4.